And I'll also go ahead and turn on the live transcripts to save as well. Perfect. So for the committee reports, if there are committees who have a report that they would like to give, we can make time for that. To start though, I'm gonna walk through very quickly just some of the stuff the solid waste planning committee has put together to kind of help guide the other committees in choosing priorities and goals. It's something we've talked about at previous meetings and updates, but we have a final version and hope that as committees are meeting, I think some committees didn't meet this month, which is totally fine. And, we're not expecting people to meet next month. But as we're going forward into late summer, early fall committee meetings, it would be great if the committees could work through this tool that we have that basically we pulled all of the recommendations and the goals from the State of Waste in Queens report. We picked the committee or committees that seemed to be the most relevant committees to work on the goal. And then we kind of left it there. So we're asking for feedback on whether the assignment of the goals to the committees makes sense to you all who are actually doing the work as the committee. And then it is very comprehensive. Some of the goals we've already done or are already undertaken. Some of them are maybe less relevant or a lot longer term. So we're asking as well to identify up to three goals that make the most sense to be your top priorities. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to just show you the tool that we created to work with. And I'll also put the link in the chat afterwards as well. So basically we have this, can everyone see my screen? Is that something folks
Yes.
can see? Perfect, amazing. Okay, so this is just something that we put together. And again, this is all coming directly from the State of Waste in Queens report, which is linked here, which we really wanted to make sure is incorporated in some way in the work that we're doing, because it is such a comprehensive report that folks have spent a lot of time on. And there's really, really great stuff in there. It's just there's a lot. So that's why we spent a lot of time allocating it to committees. So basically what we've done is taken all of the recommendations, is what we're calling them in terms of like terminology, are coming directly from the report itself. We identified 4 overarching goals from these recommendations, just as a way to categorize them. The report itself did have a categorization, some of which involved kind of responding to COVID. So we thought that these 4 goals were a way to divide and also explain what the recommendations were trying to do. And as committees, if these goals don't make sense or if the wording isn't right, like there's space for this is by no means final or definitive or anything. That we're definitely looking for feedback. This was just our initial go at organizing things. So what we've done is we have this the full table here, which is all of the recommendations from the report, which hopefully this isn't too slow. So this is the complete table here. And so what we have is this is the recommendation that's coming from the report. It has kind of in bold a high level description of what the objective is. There's a short-term step and a long-term step. I think all of them have all of these. Some might not have one or a few of the parts, but basically there's this overarching objective in bold, the short-term step, the long-term step. Um, there's a section from the report on SWAB's role. So these 2 columns, the recommendation and the SWAB role, come directly from the report. What we then did was these 2 middle columns, so the committee or committees and the goal or goals. We looked at what committee or committees made the most sense based on what the objective is looking at. And then the goal here is those 4 overarching goals as a way of categorizing what we're working on, and they're labeled G1 through 4. And so this is the whole thing. It's very long, very comprehensive. At the same time, there are things that aren't in there that folks have talked about wanting to work on. So that's another piece too, if there are things missing. But what we've done to make it easier to work with all of these recommendations is, like I said, we've divided it by committee and also by goal. And so what we're hoping the committees are able to do is go through and, your committee, basically we've filtered it out so that all of the goals that are assigned or allocated to your committee, you can just look at those. And so what we're asking folks is to just look through. Some committees have a lot more than others, and so it can be a little bit difficult to parse through. But just checking whether the recommendations make the most sense. There's a form that we have that you're more than welcome to work off of or just take notes. Just getting a sense of whether you think that these goals make the most sense for your committee, if there are ones that you think don't apply, or if there are other ones that you know of that you think should be allocated to your committee that are not. That's kind of like the first question we're asking, is like whether the committee assignments make sense. And then there's also a section for whether the goals in general, whether you think that the 4 goals are appropriate or if there's modifications that should be made. And then also we did our best to assign these to the goal, which is also the second way that we broke things down. Going back here, filtering by goal as well. So what this tool is really designed to do is just make it easier to work with the report. And this was just, we spent time going through things, but by no means think this is the final. And then the other thing that we're asking the committees to do is to, of these goals, choose up to 3 of the goals that you all are interested in making your priorities. Some of these are much longer goals. Some of them are things that are already underway or completed. But just figuring out what are some of the tangible targets that we're looking to accomplish as a SWAB. What we are thinking is that once we have committee goals identified, that'll form the basis of like our overarching report to the borough president's office about, not replicating the state of waste in Queens report each year, but doing our progress report. Having these goals will really help us be able to identify, what our vision is and how we're approaching that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop the share. I'll put this link in the chat. I sent this around to the committee chairs, but this is something that anyone and everyone can engage with. And then we also have, oops, sent that as a direct message. Let me do this here. So as committees, I sent around a Google form to the committee chairs that basically just lays out each question I talked about and allows you to enter short and long form responses. It's also totally fine to just type up notes and send them. This is something we're hoping committees, like I was saying, at the next meeting, if possible, to start to go through. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the exercise or the tool or anything with that? Yeah, Janet.
Hi, Ryan. You hear me right? Okay. Hi. So yeah, I think just a quick shout out to the whole like solid waste committee team. What you guys pulled together, I think was really great, especially like giving the momentum and just really helping to hone in on the goals. So yeah, as actually during our communication committee, like Anita and I, when we walked through it, we just at first kind of just put like low priority and high priority, but then we see how there's certain things from a communications perspective that there was. I just remember one was like legislative and environmental justice, and kind of like grouping it together. And I'm just assuming like, is this something where okay, we definitely want this to be like a top goal, so is this where now we just kind of move forward with the, the legislative and environmental justice and see if we're on the same page? Like, hey, you guys have this as like your top three and how to work about it, right? Because like that would be like the next step of like working with the fellow um, communicate the chairperson and seeing if that's their top goal as well. And then also the workload, like just again from our perspective, it's like passing the baton, like they'll kind of put everything together and we just kind of again like amplify putting it through whether it's social media, newsletters, whatever, to help bring awareness to some of these like issues and goals that we have. And just one more thing before I forget, totally forgot to mention this. When I clicked on the form, I needed permission. So I don't know, like there was something like sorry, that's on my end. I totally forgot to mention that too. That's why I just sent notes. Um, but that's just one little thing before I forget. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the permission. I'll check in and fix that. Yeah, no, that's a great question and point. As you look through, there are very few recommendations that are assigned to one committee only. Many of them are multiple um, committees, and so that kind of naturally lends itself to collaboration between committees, and so having shared prioritizations of goals is certainly something that's necessary for that. So I think for the first go at this, we can just see what folks identify as the priorities that they're thinking of, and see how that shakes out. I think these are also not necessarily set in stone. Like as we're going forward, like new things will come up and things will be accomplished and finished. So I think for right now that's totally fine. That there will be multiple committees working on a single goal, and some committees may identify shared goals, and the committees that they share with identify other goals. We're just going to see what committees are interested in, and from there figure out the best way to move forward. Because when we were going through it, and this was definitely a team effort, it's a lot. There's a lot in there. So this is kind of just our first attempt, and hopefully there are shared priorities, which will make it really easy, and if not, we can figure out a way to move forward. But I think that's a great point, and something we're definitely expecting to be something to be worked out. So for now, yeah, just look at what your committee is has been looking at or is interested in looking at for priorities, and we can harmonize once we get an initial look from the committees. Um, Mary, did you have your hand up?
You covered all my points.
Great.
And I'm assuming that we'll be discussing this as a group in September.
Yeah, definitely, and everyone's also welcome to join the solid waste planning committee meetings, where we talk about this in more detail. But that's definitely the goal, is to get the committees doing some engagement with this before our next meeting, and then at the next meeting spending some time going through. The solid waste planning committee will be meeting before, and look at what everyone has sent, um, and then hopefully have some work to engage with in the September meeting. And going forward, this being something we would like to have as guiding for SWAB. So as all the committees are doing their own projects and whatnot, the idea is that everything that we do, oh, sorry, hard to hear. Yep. The idea is that everything that we do will be able to be anchored in some goal that we've identified. So whether it's bringing in speakers or partnering on events, like we'll be able to identify what goal we're working towards achieving with all of that. Which helps, keep the organization on track, and also helps with our reporting on how we're progressing on our goals.
Ryan, can I
Yeah.
also add that, I mean, one of the things that SWAB is supposed to be doing is advising the borough president and advising policymakers in Queens. And so if we can present a plan, and there is a legislative committee and there is policy and advocacy that's in there, this is the kind of thing that we can ask the borough president to sign off on, and to let him know what we think the goals should be for zero waste in Queens, and provide him with real concrete information and some concrete ideas that he can use to legislate. So that was just another piece of the reason. It gives us direction, it gives us all something to work towards, but it also provides us with some written material to provide to elected officials.
Yep. Yeah, this is good stuff. When I first read it, I was, and just call me, I was in. It was pretty much, I looked up at the goals, and I mean, this as a SWAB, this is what we should be looking to do. I like the fact that you were involving committees to talk to each other, for them to work together. And the end result is always to recommend and give a report to the borough president, which is what we're supposed to be doing, as Susan said. This is good stuff. Thank you. Thank you, everyone on the Solid Waste Planning Committee that put this together.
Absolutely great, great document.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks to the Solid Waste Planning Committee for engaging with all of this, and as well, I think the organizing committee is the group that put the initial report together. It's a fantastic report. One of the other goals of the Solid Waste Planning Committee is breaking out the waste statistics for each community district and presenting to the community board. So there's really a wealth of information in that report. So definitely a shout out and a thank you to the folks who put the report together, as well as the Solid Waste Planning Committee for making it easier to digest as committees.
I also was wondering, tagging on to the woman who just mentioned the mayor, or not the mayor, the Queensborough president. What about the city council? Can we get them involved in this?
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we're interested in as we advocate for either in support of legislation that's introduced or requesting legislation be introduced. I think this is something that would be really helpful to keep track of, so that we're not always being responsive. Responsive. We're also being reactive. We're not always being reactive, but we have these goals set, so we're proactive in saying these are our priorities, and so legislation that fits within our priorities, that's something I think will be helpful for the legislative committee as well. Once we have all of the committees kind of state their priorities as legislation comes up, or if we notice that there are gaps in legislation, that's definitely something I think that this would lend itself to in a way that would allow us to be more strategic and proactive
And elected officials would include, the city council. It could also include state assembly and senate, because there certainly are laws and there certainly are policies that are at the state level that have an impact on our borough, as well as the borough president. So it would be all elected officials in Queens. But the borough president, I think, is the primary person that this committee reports to.
Yeah, exactly. That's my understanding as well. Perfect. Perfect. So thank you all in advance for engaging with this in committee, and also having the link now individually if you want to take some time and look. It's a lot, but it's really great stuff. So are there any final comments on that before we move on? Perfect. So that's what we've been working on as the solid waste planning committee. So that is pretty much the report that I have for that. I know July was a bit slow for some of the committees, so I know not everyone met, but do any of the committee chairs who are on have anything that they want to report? If not, that's totally fine. I'll just leave that open for now if someone has anything.
Just a quick, just feedback from meeting from the communications committee. So since Anita and I, we ranked like low and like higher priority, our next steps would be just seeing what other the chairpersons and committee, like what are they aligned with. So I'm just thinking, like, for next steps, like if we also, like, a few months ago we downloaded the Slack app, so I don't know if we should communicate there or via email, like whatever's best. That way I could just say, hey, this is what the communications team thinking out, and just seeing, if everyone could just share there just as like a next step thing. That way we kind of just slightly keep the momentum. I know we're off next August, but just, I don't know if we have like a deadline or just something, just make sure you send it out before the end of this month, or if you need more time. Like, I don't want to like push to, I know it's the summertime and everything, but just something, maybe might be sometime in August, I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I know that we have the Slack channel set up for the committee chairs. We can try and see if that works for folks. If not, we can look for other ways, but I think that's something that has potential, that we can definitely try. Anything else from folks? Yes, I'm seeing from Mary the letter to the DEC about the disadvantaged communities. That has not gone out. I don't know the status of the draft. I know the deadline was extended. I'm not sure.
To
how
August
that's-
5th.
Yes, that's right. I think that's something that's still being worked on. I don't know, Bilal, do you have any updates on how that's going, or how we can be of help for that?
Hi Ryan, hi everyone. I'm driving right now. I don't have a report on that yet, but I'll get cracking. Your executive committee will have something in the email tonight in reference to the timeline for that.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Mary, did you have anything you wanted to add about that? Yeah, the spreadsheet. Do you want to talk about the spreadsheet?
Sure. Bilal created a spreadsheet for people to make inputs into disadvantaged mapping for their communities. There's already a grant application that's associated with this now. It's for like air quality monitoring, and that's associated with disadvantaged communities. So it's $50,000 to $100,000. So, money is already starting to flow to communities that are included in these maps. So it's really important for everybody to look at them for their areas of Queens, because when we looked at them, we found that there were real missions, let's say. None of the state databases for mapping water are being used by the state for this. For example, anything to do with stormwater runoff or pumping or, groundwater, things that the state keeps databases on, wells. There are all kinds of permits that are not included in this, which are relevant to the total water budget for an area and may account for the fact that, of why some areas that really have flooding issues are left off. So you really have to look at this now for flooding or air pollution.
Yeah. I think so. One step that would be helpful for everyone to do would be to look up their community district and see the map as we went through is not very user friendly, which is one thing that can be a part of comments. But looking at your community district and seeing how it's categorized. So my understanding is that the state was setting not so much choosing communities, but choosing criteria to identify. So they set the criteria and then applied the criteria to the map of the state, and the areas that met those criteria were highlighted, and the areas that didn't weren't. And so one of the things that would be really helpful for comments, and particularly to feed into our comment as a SWAB, would be to look at the areas within your community district and see if the areas that as folks on the ground who are familiar with the areas, whether there are areas that were not identified that really should be. And I think that that's something that they're really looking for. In addition to, any comments are really welcome, but that's one thing that we can do as residents of Queens, looking at the areas that are particularly missed by this definition, and seeing, you can go in and look at your, I think it's by zip code. You can look at your zip code. You can look at zip codes in your area. I mean, you can look at zip codes across the state, but as people who are on the ground, that's something that I think they're really looking for. I think, let me put this here. I think that's a direct message to me with the link. Let me see if I can share this with everyone. Meeting. Oh, nope, I sent a direct message as well.
Oh, I think you're, we can't hear you, Ryan. Sorry.
No problem. Did that send to everyone the disadvantaged communities map in the chat? Or have I gone completely mute?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see the link.
Perfect. Okay, great.
I
Awesome.
sent everyone the link to the spreadsheet. So once you identify a problem, then you can enter it in there, because that's what Bilal is going to look at.
Yeah. So the spreadsheet is those are things that we'll be incorporating into our comment as a SWAB, and so definitely identify those. And folks are also welcome and encouraged to submit individual comments as well, as individuals or as community boards. Those are definitely things that people are looking for. And I think as folks have pointed out earlier, you know, the criteria as it is applied to Queens misses some areas that really should be identified. So I think getting comments from as many sources as possible, identifying that is really important. So thanks for bringing that up, and I'll keep an eye out, as well as the rest of the e-board, for a draft letter.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Bilal, I know the deadline for testimony is August 5th. So Bilal, when do you want to submit testimony? What's your plan in terms of a draft? I guess a draft first to send out to QSWAB or to the board to read.
That'll be all on the timeline that you all get this evening.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Is there anything else on that disadvantaged communities and our comment letter? Okay, great. So the final point was just a notice of our forming a bylaws committee to draft amendments to the bylaws. So the idea is that we are still in the process of putting the committee together. But that is our goal, is to get that committee together to hopefully have, correct me if I'm mistaken, but have proposals for September. Is that right, or is that too soon?
It might be too soon,
Okay.
Ryan, because
Yeah.
you have
'Cause
to
we-
appoint a chair.
And we don't have a bylaws committee yet. Yeah. So I think we needed to have notice was it 2 meetings of notice?
Right, 2 meetings of notice.
And then after the 2 is this is the first notice, if I'm not
No.
mistaken?
Didn't
is
we
it the
discuss it
second?
last month, Susan?
We
discussed
did, but
that.
so we discussed it last month, so I guess this is the second. Then in September, we would have a discussion, appoint a chair, and get people to serve on that committee who could then start working on the bylaws.
Right.
Great, perfect. So that was the most important thing, was to just get the notice out for this meeting. So in the interim, so August we're not meeting, but we'll still be reaching out to folks in August and before the meeting in September to get that committee together, so that we can start working on that. But I think the notice, it's I think we've met that requirement for the 2 notices. Great. So I saw earlier, I missed it in the chat. There was an event coming up. Okay, yes, here we go. So a save the date, a zero waste rally, August 17th, which is a Wednesday at 10 a.m. It'll be a rally at City Hall. There's details in the chat. I don't know, Bilal, if you want to talk more about that now.
Yeah, that was that was shared to me. I received that earlier this week. So I'm just sharing with the group that's coming up. And I know that's what one of the things that QSWAB on a previous executive board, we reviewed all of those bills that were on the floor for the council and made recommendations and set their recommendation to them. So it would be nice if members of SWAB can actually participate in the upcoming rally at City Hall.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any other events to highlight or new business? If not,
Ryan,
thank
I
yeah.
I extended an invitation to Joseph Automanelli from DSMY. He's the Queen's community representative from DSMY, to ask him to bring someone to talk to us at our next meeting about the plan for leaf collection in the Queen's leaf zones. Motivated by that article by Samantha McBride, which showed that 60% of the curbside organics was actually leaf and yard waste. And how can we get a pathway to banning leaf and yard waste from collection as garbage in the city?
Mhm.
So I didn't hear back from him. I sent that out a couple days ago, but
Great.
I'll let the group know when we hear back from him.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
I just sent a quick link in regards to, I didn't even know about this program, but the rain barrel giveaway program. If you contact your local elected official to ask if they have or are planning to schedule a rain barrel giveaway event, especially with, summer and thunder rains, I think it's just, just giving out for free. One of my friends participated in, and that's how I heard about it in the Western Queens, like in Woodside area. So just kind of like an FYI, and then we're also going to share it on social media for people to encourage to contact that way. Just help capture and store the rainwater that falls on your rooftop, and just kind of store it, especially with all the flooding. So yeah, that's just one thing too I was just thinking about and I came across.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that.
And quickly, I just wanted to mention outreach we've received from the Queen's Botanical Garden about tabling at outdoor event they have September 25th, which could be a cool opportunity.
Yes, that did sound.
I'm
good.
sorry, and I'm being pretty stupid about where does all the lawn waste and tree waste go if we can't send it where it's going now? I mean, it's a good idea to say, no, this is a bad thing, because it does make great compost, if it doesn't have weeds in it, that is. I'm just confused.
Goes in the landfill. It just gets carted out with all the rest of the trash if it's not composted.
Well, it composts itself.
Not in landfills. It rots and creates methane gas in landfills.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What kind of
I do lasagna composting.
Same
which
thing
is
with food.
Paper, trees, leaves, I'm sorry. And I do lasagna composting, and I don't smell any methane gas, but I don't do it on a large scale either.
Yeah. I think backyard composting is great for folks who have, the space and the ability and desire to do so. So I think that works. I think this program in particular is designed to pick up separately. So and it's an existing program that I actually wasn't aware of, but there is a program that this person from DSMY could talk more about and talk more about the expansion. But the program itself is picking up yard waste separately from trash, and so diverting that from the landfill to be composted, which would be a good thing, and that's what we would want. And that would serve as kind of an initial curbside organic pickup. I know in other smaller towns, my parents' town, for example, they have yard waste pickup as their only curbside organic, but that's kind of like an easy way in to get people to start diverting compostable material from the solid waste stream that goes to the landfill. So that's kind of the idea behind it, is that that's an easy way to start the curbside pickup. for people who either don't have the space or aren't able to do backyard composting. But definitely the backyard composting is good.
I don't know if my landlord's real happy about my composting, but I throw all my fruits and vegetables under my trees with my lasagna stuff, and my trees are happy as clams.
Well, the really good thing about the past success in DSNY's leaf and yard waste program is that they capture so many tons with so fewer trucks than the curbside food waste collection program.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the efficiencies really speak for itself, and we need some bridge to get to curbside food waste, and because we can't just turn the switch, we need some bridge to get there. And that I was really inspired by the BioCycle article by Samantha McBride that is sort of a duh moment. Oh yeah, we got to really focus on the leaf and yard waste first.
Yeah, and I think getting like we had talked about, getting someone from DSMY to talk about the existing program and plans to expand it. It's a program that I know nothing about. I hadn't heard about it until you brought it up, and so hearing more about how it's working and what the plans are to expand. This is really something that's in Queens wheelhouse as a borough that has more of a demand for that, or potential demand for that. That's something that we could definitely work with the city on. I think someone had raised that, they have different zones, so they have this program in separate zones, but all or most of Queens is covered, so they do pick up in all or most of Queens. Obviously that's not the case with the other boroughs, but that's something that we as the Queen SWAB could really contribute to and promote or advise on. That's something that I potentially we could be really involved with.
Do we have an opportunity to come up with a list of questions about this program before they even come? I know we've done that in the past with some folks at DSNY, and it was moderately successful.
Yeah, I think that would definitely work. I think we could even send some over in advance if we have them, and then also have them to raise when and if they're able to come. I think we could definitely do that.
Great. I think it's important for, while some of us might not know as much about organics, we are the Solid Waste Advisory Board, and some of us do know a good bit of this and have lots of questions. And I hope that they don't treat this as just like an opportunity to market whatever they're thinking about, and really engage us in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
What do you think about also asking them, should we roll into that same conversation about what's their plan for expanding the food waste drop-off, and give us an opportunity to make suggestions on where we think that those, lack of a better word, I call them the Astoria boxes, those, where should they go next? Is that two conversations, or do you think one conversation?
If it's anything like the conversation we had last time, when the guy who was unrolling those Astoria boxes, I'm forgetting the name now too. He was a guy that was involved with pilot programs at DSNY and knew absolutely nothing about anything else. So it might be fun to roll the questions into this, but if this person is only familiar with curbs, like yard waste collections, he's not gonna have, he's in a different department, different division. He doesn't even know the name of the person who has the answers for us, probably. But I think it's interesting to continue asking these questions, because I personally believe that those people need to know each other and be planning together. There's no reason for this siloing within the same agency. And it's perpetually frustrating to have to deal with that. And I hope that that's something that as a SWAB, we can help the agency realize is that in order for them to answer our questions when they come speak to us, they're going to have to talk to one another.
So good point, Gil. Maybe it's making sure that Joseph knows that we want to talk about two things and make sure that we have two people who are able to talk about them.
I mean, I just want to, I mean, yeah, I want to talk about two things, but just within the yard waste collections, I'm very interested to know where they're going to be taking this stuff, where they're going to be processing this stuff. What labor force is doing that? Is it contracted? Is it DSNY? And I don't know if he's going to know that. He might just be the marketing person for the campaign. So if he knows that we're going to ask some in-depth questions, maybe he can be joined by someone who actually has answers.
So operational and marketing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is done in the parks, but that's a good question to know.
I know Parks does a lot of their own parks waste composting out in I forget the name of it. It's just south of Park. But I don't know that Parks does any processing of material that's collected by DSNY, even yard waste. I would be very surprised if that is the case. And DSNY has had yards doing yard waste processing in the past, because that used to be a thing. It used to, when I moved to the city, that was just a regular thing back in 2010, and they stopped it. I can't remember why. It was budget cuts or some natural disaster or something, and it just hasn't really come back.
Yeah, they used to do a little bit on a side access road at Forest Park, but it was at an angle and all the leachate would run down the streets. It was sort of really as an afterthought.
Cunningham Park. That's
Cunningham Park. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Queens
See,
Botanical
Mac
Garden.
has his hand raised.
Send stuff to Queens Botanical Garden.
Yeah, Queens Botanical Gardens has or had a master composter program.
They're a part of the master composting program that's just started this year. All of the botanical gardens and master composting sites are a part of it. DSNY changed it this year, so it's all.
Well, they've been around for a long time, because I got my master composter.
Yeah. So Queens Botanical takes Cunningham and part of Corona Parks waste, but it's honestly all up to whoever's managing the site with Parks when it comes to that, whether they want to donate it to a composting site.
Unfortunately, Parks Department does what they want to do.
It's up to the management. It's up to somebody that's more eco-friendly that chooses to try and get it into somewhere else, basically. So
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well,
yeah, I'll just chime in for a second. Good evening, everybody. Going back to the DSNY, I guess, suggestion to Adam, I think even to the group, when we talk to any agencies, we could ask as many questions as we want. Like if we prepare the questions for them beforehand, and then even if we want to add suggestions, just to like maximize that communication with them and just make it more efficient and streamline things for us. So, to Gil's point, things don't have to be siloed. We could just kind of keep everything streamlined, and just ask them as many questions. They'll come and they'll speak on whatever. We just give them obviously what we really want, the topic of their, them coming to speak with us about. But I think even just giving them more questions that we're forecasting or that we really want to know also, and then also just some suggestions that we've come up for them to be like, well, y'all need to, kind of streamline your communication a little bit more if it's going to be a message to the public, to the borough.
Yeah, and real quick before I see Mary, you have your hand. I think one thing we can also do as a SWAB is raise the unanswered questions with the borough president as well as city council, the sanitation committee. I think that that's something that we can also do more of is identify the questions that we weren't able to get answers to. Not that they'll necessarily be able to get answers, but having passing that message on, I think would also be helpful to try and get some of those answers. But Mary, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, we've been having speakers and we've been having conversations now for a year. And I really hope that we can, you know, get ourselves organized, as we were discussing earlier. And so that, you know, when issues like this come up and these opportunities for speakers come up, they're part of a project which is being under, you know, ongoing and being worked on by, you know, maybe a coalition of committees, so that it's obvious, like, you know, why we're having this discussion, or, you know, what's, you know, what that speaker is doing there. So I think this will all, you know, amount to more if we can, you know, get organized quickly in the fall, and then, you know, start moving ahead, and, you know, with the information we already have, and then filling in with these speakers, or if legislation comes up, like it'll be more obvious, like how that fits in with, you know, the priorities of the group and who we need to be outreaching to. Like, what do we ask the borough president for? You know, because there's a lot of information, a lot of things going on, a lot of nice to know, you know, but what is it amounted to at this point for this group?
Hey, Mary, don't you think that this is what the whole discussion has been about for the last 10 or 15 minutes? Putting our group together with the questions and putting the questions in front of the people who have to answer them. They have to answer them. That's the problem with the government in New York City. They don't answer questions. They push it off to a committee.
Right. I'm not arguing that these are not important questions to ask. I'm just suggesting that as a Q swab, and as, you know, there's this group of committees, that there's a way there, you know, there's a way for us to organize our questioning to make it, you know, more powerful and solid, which goes back to the solid waste planning committee's work and the work that the committees are going to do, you know, so that we, you know, we have a plan that's obvious and we know where all this fits. That's all I'm saying.
I apologize. I'm like a bull in a china shop. I just like to go for it and get it done. And you have a very good way of dealing with stuff. I'm not PC.
Well, perfect. Does anyone have any final comments on this topic or any other new business?
Sarah from Queens Farm.
Yeah.
I heard you talking about outreach, so I just want to let you all know I'm helping organize the Queens County Fair coming up in September. So if you are interested in tabling, we'd love to have you. Saturday, September 10th and Sunday, September 11th.
And I see Gil, your hand's raised.
Yeah, I guess my last comment on this is, if we're gonna have questions for this presenter about the yard waste collection, where can we start putting those questions? Will there be a form to fill out, a survey? Is there a Google Doc just to start typing them in?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can set up a form to send around to start collecting questions.
Thank you.
if Ryan, if we
Yeah.
go back to the work that the Solid Waste Planning Committee did, where would that speaker and where would those questions fit in? And maybe that's
yeah,
the place to begin. Like,
totally.
who is the, what's the point person?
Yeah.
Like,
So first to address the question Gil had. So I'll send around a form. As Adam said, we haven't confirmed this person, but we can start collecting questions anyway. And presumably they'll be able to come, and if not, we could still forward them. Hopefully they will. And then to your point, Mary, I think, and we still haven't identified priorities within the committees, but I could see this, for example, fitting in, with the composting committee, for example, if this was a priority that the composting committee was interested in, either, if we were interested in taking this on as like, this is a bridge, as Adam was saying, to curbside organics collection as a whole. Our work to promote that, which I think is a goal that we're long-term trying to achieve, is curbside organic pickup. If we wanted this to be a bridge, and that was a strategy we wanted to employ, working with DSNY to roll this out as effectively as possible, or advising on ways to make it more workable, particularly within the Queens environment, that would be something that this speaker and this project would fall under. Similarly, which folks have mentioned, it might not make sense to combine this with the rollout of the organic bins, but that was another thing that right now it's only a few bins, and they're rolling them out to more communities. That would be something also that either the Solid Waste Committee or the Environmental Justice Committee, looking at making sure that they're rolled out equitably, working with DSNY to advise on where those bins should go. Those are some things that's at least how my initial reaction to how would this fit in with some of the stuff in the report. Obviously, we haven't identified what those priorities are, or if that's kind of our strategy that we want to employ for curbside excuse me, pickup, but that's how I envision this speaker in particular, and this type of work, anchoring within the larger framework from the State of Waste report. And I'll also follow up about the tabling information. That's something I think if we can get folks, I'd be happy to do some of that tabling about QSWAB at that fair. So I'll follow up with you.
Ryan, just again, is there a committee that would fall under?
I think so. So what we had talked about at our executive board meeting was this would be a good person to come before we've had the priorities set. I think going forward, it would be much more clear, what committee this is. I mean, clearly this is, composting organic material in the form of yard waste. So it makes sense to be within the organics committee. But until, we have committees identifying their goals, I think that this is one that we can start with. And as we move forward with committees having their goals, having point people within the committees, and having people come and speak to the SWAB as a whole, but then also working more directly with the committees, and the committee chair is something we could do once we have those established. But until that's established, it's I don't want to presume that this is what the priorities as set by the organics committee is. But that's kind of the idea, is this is a step towards that future plan from where we were before. So it's like it's a hybrid, like an in between. Any other questions, comments on this topic, or if you have other new business to raise? Great. I'll say thanks again. And does anyone have a motion to adjourn?
Susan Latham, so moved that I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Enjoy August.
Well, thank you so much,
Bye.
everyone.
See you all soon.
Have a good evening.
Take care, everyone.
Safe.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Ryan. Hi, this is Tarika from the Borough President's Office. I didn't want to come off the mic
Yes.
while I have all the toddler noise in the background. But I just wanted to say hello. I know this is your first meeting, and just to let you know
Yes.
that I'm here trying to let you guys do your thing and not, be meddling in the meeting, but just here because I know you guys want to advise the VP. And so he's open to that opportunity once you guys get the game plan together. I'm listening to you guys strategize. I think you're doing a great job and taking the right steps, especially when dealing with agencies and electeds. So we are here. Kat is on maternity leave now. I know
Right.
Tiffany, her, or myself is usually on, but I just wanted to let you know I was here tonight. And
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
okay, thank you, and have a good evening. And I guess you guys are not meeting again until September, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I'll see you all in September. And
Yes.
forward to hearing about the compost bins and all of the other cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you,
absolutely.
Tarika.
Hi, and you have my email. Hi,
Yes.
Andrea.
Hi.
Yes.
Okay. If you need anything, you have my email over the summer. Even if you guys are strategizing before
Mhm.
before September and need anything from me,
Yeah.
just let me know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, no problem. Have a good night.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Yes, good meeting, Ryan. Good meeting. We're off to a good start.
I
Yeah.
hope you're feeling better or well or
Much. Oh, well, I'm doing better
good.
as the day went on. Last night was rough.
Yes.
Last night was rough, but I am doing better. Thanks for asking. All right. Good job. I am excited.
Yes,
I am excited. Yes.
Very exciting stuff.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Everyone have a good night. Bye.